Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudd of HurricaneTrack.com here with your off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion. Thursday, 80 degrees here, something like that. Thursday, February 22nd, 2018. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it is toasty. We're going to talk about that as we move along. First of all, a little reminder from our friends at the National Hurricane Center. This was posted yesterday, and by the way, I've had like an allergy deal. Not really a cold, it's been like an allergy thing where it made my voice really bad, and I was hoping to do something on Monday, but I couldn't talk, and anyway, here I am Thursday, and I'm barely back in the game where I can use my voice. I wanted to do an update yesterday, but I sounded awful yesterday, and I'm about 80% back today. Anyhow, this was yesterday's post that we are now 100 days away, now 99 days away from hurricane season. And this is so vitally important. I know that you hear it so much about being prepared, having a plan, but I'm telling you, it does make a big, big difference. And everybody's different. Everybody's family situation, your economic status, you know, whether you're single, you're married, you got kids, pets, a career that you have to deal with, your own business. It's very, very complicated. And it's easy for somebody like me to sit on this side and say, you have to be prepared. And knowing that it's very complicated for everybody. But the bottom line, it's easy to educate yourself, and you can do so with a lot of resources that are out there. And so a reminder, it's coming up, hurricane season less than 100 days away as of today. All right, so looking at the long paddock site here, the Southern Oscillation Index today, positive 14.65, but in the last several days, in the period of time that I lost my voice, basically, we've really chiseled away at the longer-term averages here. The 90-day average down to basically a half a point below the neutral mark, or zero, and then the 30-day is -6. But we're going to have a little bit of a rebound, and I think when all is said and done, February will end up with a very close to neutral signal from the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index, and that matters because it affects the pressure pattern and thus the state of the ENSO in the tropical Pacific, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And really the bottom line, let's keep an eye on this right here, and if it stays negative or goes strongly negative, then we can really start to look for the possibility of an El Nino developing in the tropical Pacific. Now the subsurface chart updated here recently, and very recent, just a few days ago, and you can clearly see this is the top of the Pacific here. This is the surface, 450 meters deep, and again, this is just like a slice through the Pacific, the tropical Pacific, east on the right side, west on the left side over here. And you see this subsurface large area of positive anomalies. You see the scale here, and you look at the gradient. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees Celsius positive anomalies, way down deep though, 100 meters deep or deeper, and confined to the western Pacific. So the question becomes, will there be enough of a change in the pressure pattern to drive this water eastward and erode all of this cold water away, those cold anomalies, that is. The water itself isn't necessarily cold. It's all a matter of perspective, I guess, but these are cold anomalies, departures from normal. Will this be able to make inroads over and chisel all of this out and create El Nino conditions for the summer? This takes time. It takes weeks for this to evolve, and there's definitely been a lot of uptick in the chatter, as it seems there is every February, that an El Nino could be coming. Various people talking about it, some people starting to put out the latest forecast plumes from the various models, and this time of year, it's just those models could be so wrong. We're just not there yet. Remember last year, there was a lot of talk of El Nino this time of year for about 90 days, and then poof, it went away. So that's why I like to just observe, open the window and look out. That's what I say. So this is interesting. We got to watch this, see how this progresses, but that's still a large area of real estate in the tropical Pacific covered by colder anomalies that this has to fight against. and it may not win. We'll see. I'll show you my reasoning in a second. So looking at the surface now, the anomalies for today, you see there's a little bit of warming here in the extreme eastern Pacific, but overall this cold anomaly pattern still holds sway in the tropical Pacific. Gulf of Mexico, all that cold anomaly from recently, that's gone. Now everything in here is positive anomalies. The western Atlantic really warmed up quickly, and why not? There's a record-setting 500 millibar ridge sitting over this portion. We'll show you that in a moment. That's why it's 80-something degrees here. 80 degrees yesterday, I think it was, in Washington, D.C. Mount Washington in New Hampshire, 48 degrees. You say, well, that's not very warm. It is for them. It's just unbelievable. And so this pattern, airplane flying over. I got my window open in the office. I have to. This pattern is going to flip. I'll show you that in a moment. But the current state, it's been pretty brisk out in the eastern Atlantic with strong trades. So we've chiseled this away. But look, you see how all this warm water is still there. And, the main development region has taken a hit here. But it's going to flip back, I do believe. And I'll show you why in just a moment. And just for comparative purposes, this is what it looked like about a year ago. Pretty big differences. The Pacific this year much colder versus last year. And there's that reasoning why people thought an El Nino was going to come on last year. You remember right off the coast of South America, this time last year was that very strong positive anomaly. It created a lot of heavy rainfall and flooding. And then we flipped over to this La Nina sort of out of nowhere, so to speak. Certainly this time last year, the main development region was warmer, but it wasn't astoundingly warmer. I think the North Atlantic this year is a lot warmer overall than we had last year. If we can compare the two, yeah. I mean, this is a year ago. So, there are no surprises as of yet. That's what it comes down to. So, a lot of talk of the El Nino, absolutely. But this is interesting. This is a neat little chart that gets tweeted once in a while by Dr. Michael Ventris at WSI, if I can get this to expand for me. What in the world are we looking at here? Let me just make it real simple. Basically, get a color we can use. The blues indicate stronger trade winds or a trade surge, and the reds and oranges indicate less so of trade winds, and maybe even a reversal, maybe westerly winds. And so let me just kind of start over here. So this is the past, all this over here. This is the past, and this down towards the bottom is the forecast or the future. All right? So this is where we've been. Zoom back out a little bit. And this is where we're going. So here's all of the changes that we've seen in the Pacific since January, late January, where we had a lot of westerly winds, and that created this downwelling that we saw over here. So that red and orange and whatever there created this for the most part. You see that? All right, so it's all connected here. But what's happening is we're going to have a change here. The ECMWF Ensemble Prediction System, that's what that says right there that I just drew through, shows the trade surge coming back, covering anywhere from 90 degrees west, which is, of course, Gulf of Mexico. If you looked at it on a map, that's New Orleans longitude, all the way over to 135 east. That's a huge chunk of in the Pacific anyway, the zonal wind anomalies down here in the tropics. That's a large area where the trades are supposed to pick up, according to this forecast. And look, here's all the blue showing trade surges in the Atlantic since the beginning of the year, and that has resulted in the cooling that we saw. But look what's happening. We're starting to relax it. We have, and it's going to do even more so according to the forecast. So I think that this map right here will start to fill in out here, and this will get any progression of that warm water. We're going to increase the trades out here a little bit. It's not going to reinforce the La Nina, but it's probably going to stunt the growth of this feature more to the east. I know it sounds complicated, But that's how everything's connected. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? I think so. And we can look at it on a weekly basis. Loss of my voice notwithstanding. All right. So there's that. We'll look at this hopefully Monday or Tuesday of next week, the next update from it, from Dr. Ventris at WSI. We'll see if he tweets. And if he doesn't, I'll just ask him to create one for me. All right, so the upper pattern, this is a neat chart. I saw this on Twitter today. The 500 millibar height anomaly. I mean, come on. For those of you that know meteorology, I mean, that's a giant bubble of heat and, high pressure, way, way above the normal. If this were August or September, and you had a hurricane down in the deep tropics, it would basically end up in the Gulf of Mexico. It certainly couldn't come up and hit the East Coast because there's too much high pressure. This is the kind of pattern where you hit the U.S. with hurricanes. I'm just saying. It's February, though, so we don't have to worry about it. I wonder, though, is there any kind of a mirror that we could, like if you looked and said, okay, what you have in February, does it happen again several months later? It would be really interesting to go back and look. When you get these big heat waves in the winter, does that equate to an anomalous ridge over the northwest Atlantic at a future time? It'd be interesting to know that, wouldn't it? I don't have time to research such things, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because that kind of a pattern, if you had a tropical cyclone sitting down here somewhere, it would either go into Central America, but more than likely curve into the Gulf where they set up like that. Just saying. But this is responsible for all the heat, and then at this boundary area right through here, it's just been miserable. I'll show you that in a second too. All right, so this is what it looks like in an animation. This is from Stu Ostro. Fantastic technology and imagery that we have these days. There's the outline of the ridge right there. It's interesting to see it on a map, but to see it on a satellite picture, a living satellite picture, that's even better. So everybody, and I like the colors too because it looks like everything down here is, I don't want to say on fire, but it certainly represents the heat very well, doesn't it? Oh my goodness, very, very warm. And then Joe Bastardi, this is very interesting too. He tweeted, this is what it looks like now. Here's your giant heat ridge over the east, the anomalous troughing in the west, and then the battle zone in between through here where it's just been miserable with flooding and ice storms and freezing rain, severe thunderstorms in Oklahoma at the Norman area. I was like, oh my, talk about yuck. What a waste. I mean, I guess it's interesting, but freezing rain itself just totally stinks. But to have a severe thunderstorm freezing rain event, that's like the worst weather you could ever ask for. Anyhow, here's what it looks like. I guess except a tornado or a hurricane, that's probably worse, but it's all a matter of perspective, right? So what it looks like now, this is what it looks like according to the GEFS, the ensemble forecast system from the GFS, down the road a spell. Yeah, so you change the ridge to more troughing with significant blocking up here in the high latitudes. And what does that do? All of this negative anomaly out over the Atlantic will slow the trade winds down, maybe open up a storm track along the east coast of the U.S. We'll have to see, but it'll certainly change the whole pattern to more normal overall. It's getting a little late to get really nasty Arctic air to come draining way down into the southeast U.S., but it certainly is going to change things. Look at it that way, all right? And just kind of looking at lower 48 weather, there's your ridge over here. Here's your boundary area, and then here's your colder air with the trough. It's really easy to pick that out. This is serious, though. A lot of flooding here along that boundary area. Lots and lots of counties here with flash flood watches. Please pay attention to that. My annual plea of not driving your vehicle through flood waters holds again for 2018, and it's 100% preventable. Come on, we have to do better. So all that heavy rain is going to lead to rivers rising, and that's already happening. If we look at the rivers and streams update here, lots of dots to look at, I know. What color do I have? Good. So upper Midwest here near the Great Lakes region, lots of flooding, some of these in major flood. Another cluster down here in eastern Texas, sort of the Arklatex region, I guess you could say. And then through the Mississippi Valley, for the most part, some of these going into moderate. So please pay attention to that. Very, very easy to get information. By the way, want to remind you, enter your zip code on the National Weather Service homepage at weather.gov. And then once you get to this, you can click on rivers, lakes, and rainfall, and you'll go to this page here, which has all the goodies for you, all right? And it can be very, very helpful. Very helpful. Awareness and planning and everything in between. Let's get rid of some of these tabs so we don't overload the Dell here. Bye-bye. All right, so coming up, as I wrap things up for today, I will be speaking at the Southeast Severe Storm Symposium at Mississippi State University at the end of March. It's coming up in about a month. And they talked about it. I tweeted it the other day. It took me a while. I don't say I forgot, but I've been so busy after Nate that I never got our computer crunching guy to create a graph for me. And I was like, oh man, I need a graph of Nate. I forgot. Well, I didn't forget. I just put it off, I guess. And so I tweeted that I'll be showing this plus a lot of other data surrounding it at the Severe Storm Symposium at Mississippi State, and of course at the National Tropical Weather Conference just a couple of weeks later down in South Padre Island. And both of these are remarkable. This filled with a lot of students who are going to be future meteorologists and broadcast meteorologists, research meteorologists, you name it. The people that are coming to this, we're going to hear from, of course, me. Yay, that's great. Carl Parker from the Weather Channel, Brian Norcross. I'm telling you, if you've never heard Brian Norcross speak, wow, he is something else. Just an incredible person. And he has really done a lot to encourage me over the years. And it's going to be nice to hear him speak. And then Rick Smith. All right, so those are the four keynotes, plus a wealth of other speakers at Mississippi State. This is awesome, the interaction with the students. You know, it's nice to go. I mentioned this recently. I'm sure that it's great. I used to do it years ago, to go to the conferences where there was 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 attendees, but it's like you get lost. You know, I mean, and it's impossible to interact with people. You know, I would have a booth or I spoke, and you have people lined up trying to interact, and I always felt bad. I couldn't get to everybody, you know, and I'm sure some of the other people that are way more popular than me feel the same way. They love these speaking engagements, but they regret that they can't interact with everybody. The Severe Storm Symposium, and especially the National Tropical Weather Conference at South Padre, offers that. So enjoy it. You know, come register for either one. And you know what? If you're a student and you can get away, easy for me to say, right? Hey, I'm going to South Padre. Yeah, sure. But these would be great for the students of Mississippi to attend the Hurricane Conference, because you could be in local television one day, and who better to get that voice of reason out to the masses than people who are educated, right? So I wanted to mention that again. These are two, and it's not just, well, you're going to these conferences, so you've got to, you know, promote them. I believe in these conferences. There's a lot of other conferences around the country. Some are good, some, not so much, in my opinion. These two are top notch, okay? And you got one that's going to graduate a bunch of bright young minds. You got another one that shows everything coming to fruition, how it works. I just think that's the best of all worlds, and I'm very, very honored to be a part of both, and I can't wait to be there, all right? I'll talk about it a little bit more as we get closer to them, and then it'll be time. All right, that's it for me for today. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm glad I got my voice back, and I'm glad I'm going to be able to continue to narrate my documentary. I keep saying it's almost done, it's almost done. I'm finally up to the last part. Hurricane Nate. Irma's finished, and I was not in Maria in Puerto Rico, so that's going to be fairly brief. I do have some content from a gentleman that was down and still is in Puerto Rico, who contributed some information and content to me. But then Nate will wrap everything up, and I think you're going to really, really like it. The Tracking the Hurricanes 2017 will be ready in just a few weeks. It's almost time. Yay! Have a great rest of your Thursday. Stay cool out there if you're in the heat ridge. And if you're between it, stay dry. And if you're on the other side, stay warm. Yeah, it worked out pretty good. I'm Mark Stott of HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll talk to you again sometime next week.